The Marvel Universe in Netflix is expanding. We started with Daredevil in 2015, which made waves as Netflix's best show at the time. Then Jessica Jones depicted a complex story about an abuse survivor that accepts, rejects, and comes to tentative terms with her superheroine status. Luke Cage followed and was no less important. The story of a black man that can't be shot.
Come on, man. Did you really have to put it like that? You couldn't have said the story of a black guy that can't be hurt, that can't be harmed? Nah, it's the story of a black man that can't be shot. You just had to prey on those stereotypes. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Keep going.
Trying to find his place in the cultural hub of Harlem. It's been a great, albeit bumpy, ride so far, and we're finally getting to the fourth Marvel hero to complete the Defenders. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is a pretty beloved superhero.
I mean, not really. You would think, considering how awesome he is, but I have never seen Iron Fist on anyone's top 10 favorite superhero lists.
He's also a rich white savior propped up by generic Oriental culture to become a mystical master of Kung Fu.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to talk. His real name is Danny Rand, and he's one of the finest warriors in the entire Marvel Universe. He's the sole survivor of a plane crash that killed his wealthy parents in the Himalayas. Since then, he spent 15 years training with the monks of Kunlun to become the immortal Iron Fist. With the power to summon superhuman strength, speed, and agility, and a powerful glowing fist, he returns to New York to save it from an evil mystical ninja clan known as the Hand. Weird, right?
A little bit. I mean, I don't think anyone is ever going to get over the fact that Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider and then became a genetic spider-human hybrid. And don't get me wrong, Spider-Man is my top 10 favorite superhero of all. He's number one on my list, but I mean, radioactive spiders, that's some weird shit. I'm just saying.
Maybe even a little familiar?
What rules?
Yes. Yeah, it's very familiar. It's almost like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, 4 turtles get stuck in some kind of toxic mutagen goo thingy, and then they spend like 15 years training to become ninjas, and then they fight the Foot Ninja Clan, like how Iron Fist fights the Hand Ninja Clan. You would think that they're all together as part of, you know, this umbrella organization called The Body.
The Body.
My mind.
So what we have here is a web of pseudo-Asian mystical martial arts, ninja enemies, and a handful of white men ready to save the day. This is a trope, or an accepted convention in storytelling. But why?
Because martial arts is cool. That's why. People like martial arts. I love martial arts. I love seeing people fight each other. And I like the concept of honor. Something that is seriously lacking in our Western society. I'm just saying.
Let's break it down. First, there's the issue of Orientalism. Orientalism in fiction means depicting characters of East Asian or Arabic descent as exaggerated and exotic others, as compared to the white counterparts.
Yeah, but that seems to be more of something out of happenstance than it seems someone is actually actively trying to do so. I mean, if you take a character that's a stranger or out of place and you put them in any environment, then every single detail that revolves around the environment they're unfamiliar with is going to seem exaggerated and exotic to them. I mean, imagine if you took a Japanese man and you placed him in America. Well, I mean, the cultures are pretty different, so he's going to be a little shocked to see that we care more about money than we care about, you know, other people or any concept of honor and integrity. Well, that is if that Japanese guy is, you know, likes Bushido or anything like that, or is raised Buddhist. I'm just saying. I mean, it would be a culture shock, is what I'm saying. And then same thing for us. I mean, again, it's not that these elements are exaggerated or exotic. They're just new and different, and they stand out more because they would be more interesting than something that we already know. I don't really view it as a problem. It's just kind of, you know, just the way our minds work.
Fool has taught you in our ways.
So, if you see Asian men and women in robes talking a lot about honor and karma, or if they're solely there as ninjas or martial arts experts, then the show is reinforcing Orientalist stereotypes.
Well, okay. Then question, does that mean that Japanese manga and anime also reinforce Orientalism and these stereotypes? I mean, for example, there's this one manga or an anime, there's both, called Kenichi's History's Greatest Disciple, or is it History's Greatest Disciple Kenichi? Whatever. The point is, it's about this one Japanese kid who got bullied a lot, who finds a couple of masters at this dojo down the street from his house, and he learns different forms of martial arts from all 4, well I guess 5 technically, of his masters. And it's all about martial arts and fighting and this guy being merciful and honored. I mean, actually, one of the biggest plot points towards the end of the manga is about the killing fist martial artists who are ready to kill people, and the people, or the martial artists that want to protect people and not kill them and, you know, maim them. It's actually a huge plot element in the last chunk of the manga. So I mean, is that reinforcing these stereotypes, despite the fact there's a Japanese person who drew and wrote this manga? I mean, come on, that's absurd. I mean, these elements exist in this culture, and using these elements in different stories is very entertaining and interesting to some people. And it's used by Japanese people and American people alike. It's even used by Chinese people in their own films over in Hong Kong when they make their kung fu films. I mean, this isn't a far-fetched idea. This shit has been going on for years, man. So I don't really see what the issue is.
Filmmakers get away with this because of the presumed ignorance of the audience. Martial arts are obviously real. Himalayan temples actually exist, and people really do adhere to mystical belief systems all over the world. The problem comes in assuming those ideas can sum up whole groups of people.
Yeah, but you'd have to legitimately be a stupid person to think that. I'm not being facetious, by the way. You seriously have to be dumb to come to that conclusion.
Even worse, those ideas are usually meant to empower white heroes. If you study in the Himalayan mountains, you'll gain mystical magic powers to affect the universe.
Yeah, I'm sure, I guess. But I mean, it's a fictional story, so not really.
If you're blind and study under a blind sensei, you can basically regain your sight and become a ninja.
Now, I actually didn't watch the Netflix Daredevil show, so I don't really know if they've deviated from the comic or not. But last time I checked, Daredevil actually could see because he was actually hit by a truck filled with a bunch of different mutated chemicals, and they got into his eyes, so the world thought he was blind, but he actually could see, but it was like some kind of advanced sonar type of environment that was all red and shit, and that's why he could see things. And because I guess he was technically blind, his other senses were enhanced as well, and that's how he became Daredevil. So I don't think it was simply training. But then again, like I said, if the TV show is different, tell me. But no, it wasn't that simple last time I checked.
And if you study enough kung fu, your fist will glow with the power of an immortal dragon.
No, that's not what happened. See, what actually happened in the Iron Fist storyline is, well, first you have to become a master of Kung Fu. And I don't really know what Kung Lung teaches in terms of Kung Fu. I know from the TV show, it looks like a mixture between Wushu Kung Fu and Wing Chun Kung Fu, with a little bit of Aikido sprinkled in there, but there's really only so many arm blocks you can do before these systems overlap. So first you have to become a master, you know, in Kung Fu, and then you have to fight a tournament or a gauntlet of different fighters in order to earn the right to fight Svihl, the Undying, who is a giant dragon that can't be killed. That's why he's called the Undying. So then, if you do manage to defeat Svihl, the Undying, you then go into another part of this mystical cave, and there's a cauldron that's filled with molten lava and magma, right? And that is actually Svihl's heart. So then you put your hands inside of that cauldron and you pull them out. I mean, it burns for a second. I would imagine it burns quite a bit. And then you can summon chi to your hands. And that's how you become the Iron Fist. It's not really so much you just learn Kung Fu. You actually, there's a process to this whole Iron Fist thing. So wait a minute, hold on. If Iron Fist put both of his hands into the cauldron thing, then how come he can only use one hand in order to make the Iron Fist? Well, actually, as it turns out, he can. It's just, in the TV show, he hasn't. But he can. Well, he will be eventually, but he can. Okay. Well then, how come Iron Fist just didn't take the whole cauldron thingy of the dragon heart shit and just pour it all over his body? So that way his entire body would become invulnerable and be able to summon chi. Why didn't he just do that? Because if he poured the cauldron out, it would kill the dragon permanently. That's why he doesn't just dump it all out. Okay, well then, why didn't the nigga just like scoop his hands up in the magma and just, you know, bathe in the shit and get the power that way? I don't understand. Look, man, I don't know. I didn't write the comic book. I just read what happened. That's how he became. I don't know why he didn't do that. I didn't write it. Shit, man. If I was an Iron Fist, that is exactly what I would do. I wouldn't be the Iron Fist. I'd be like the Iron Body. My whole body would just be glowing and shit. You know what I mean? Anyone who try to hit me at the side, I'd be like, "Whoa!" My leg, what the do? I don't know. I just find that would be the most productive usage. Oh, and then I was thinking, what if that sheen got on my dick too? Then I'd be the Iron Dick. Could you imagine having sex with a chi-infused penis? Now, I mean, the possibilities are endless now that I think about it. Yeah, we're just gonna keep going.
This is especially problematic when characters of this stripe are often the only roles people of Asian or Pacific Islander descent can get in film or TV.
I guess it's pretty friggin' awesome that in Hong Kong there are a whole bunch of different kung fu movies being produced all the time that you have access to. Well, if you want to be an internet pirate, you have access to them. And I'm pretty sure you could buy some of these cool Hong Kong kung fu movies. There's like a whole bunch of them. Unfortunately, I don't really consume a bunch of it because there's a lot of stuff that I do like watching. But I mean, off the top of my head, there's this whole Ip Man trilogy where you can find a Chinese master of Wing Chun Kung Fu going around fighting with Kung Fu masters. I mean, it's available. It's there if you want it. It's no real reason to complain about it being Iron Fist, some white guy doing it, when you can watch a movie of a Chinese guy doing it. I mean, it's available. It's out there. I mean, shit.
And spoiler, casting a white person to this poorly developed kind of role does not solve the issue. It makes it worse. The second problem is the idea of a white savior. White saviors are white people, usually men.
We had to add that very important plot detail. Otherwise, people might get a little confused.
Who enter an exotic society and come out as the chosen one figure. They've absorbed the stereotype culture and have emerged as the best person among those people. But this marginalizes people who don't often get a chance to see themselves as the main character.
Do you know the Muffin Man? No, I'm kidding. No, but seriously, do you know that manga exists? There's even different type of Korean mangas. That's a thing too. I guess you just call them comic books. Anime is a thing. You wanna know what's interesting about anime? A lot of that shit takes place, guess what, in Japan, which means Japanese people who like seeing these different elements of their culture can see them in so many different forms and ways, and light novels too. Like, that's a thing that happens. And what, do you think that people in China don't make movies or some shit like that? Like, that's not like there isn't a movie business over there? Yeah, there is. It's interesting to me that you pretend that these people don't have access to these stories when they do. I mean, they exist. You just have to go out and look for them. If you're upset at the fact that they don't get a bunch of coverage, well, that's a whole different conversation to be had. But to pretend that they're not a thing is some old bullshit.
While also subtly implying that all the people from these fictive cultures can't defend themselves because they need saving.
Well, if that bothers you so much, just read some manga.
Thankfully, this white person showed up to study and use their culture to save the day.
Let me explain this concept to you, because apparently you don't seem to get it, or you do get it. It, I guess, doesn't serve your video, so you're not going to explain it. But the reason why there is usually an outsider coming into a different culture to learn and understand and adopt it is because, from a writing point of view, it's the easiest way ever to convey information to the audience via an ignorant main character. Because it really wouldn't make any sense to explain concepts to a character that already knows what's going on. So if you have a Tibetan monk who just grew up in this culture for generations, it really wouldn't make any sense that another monk would have to explain shit to him unless he was a kid. However, if you want to take someone who's closer to your demographic, like a teenager who's from America, and put him into this culture, because it's really easy to teach someone something new, this white guy who has no idea what this shit is about, it's the best way, or the easiest way for that matter. I wouldn't say the best, but certainly the easiest way to convey information to the audience, because the main character also doesn't know what's going on. It's like Neo from the Matrix. You know, Neo from the Matrix had to learn all of these different elements on how to live in the Matrix. Imagine if the story just kind of followed around Morpheus. You really wouldn't understand what was going on because no one would be teaching you anything. It would just assume that you already know. And it's just really easy to do that. As to why it's always white people, it's because, I guess this might be a white person thing, I don't really know. But it seems white people can easily identify with other white people a lot better. I mean, this shit even happens in porn. Porn, nigga. This shit happens in porn, nigga. There are porn stars, nigga, who will not have sex with black people because they think because it does apparently affect their bottom line. I mean, shit. Porn, nigga. Porn, nigga. Porn. There are porn stars right now who will suck a dick, right? They'll get a penis in their butthole. They will sit in a room and let 12 guys have sex with them. But they can't be black. That's too much for them. That's taking that shit a little too far. But to be completely serious, I mean, this is something that it might be a white person thing. I don't know very many people who have a huge issue with this, but the reason why it's usually white people in these roles is because their demographics is, well, white people are the majority in America, so you appeal to a wider margin of people. That's number one. I mean, I don't know very many black nerds. I mean, I know some, but not as many as white people. I mean, there's this one guy on YouTube right now called Andre the Black Nerd. He markets himself as if he's special, and he kind of is in a certain regard, because there aren't a bunch of black nerds. So I mean, it's usually white people who absorb this content. So the writers who make it easier for white people to self-insert themselves make them white, and that's why they're a thing. But if you are, you know, above all of that shit, just read Japanese manga or different comic books from different areas. You know you can do that, right? It's available to you.
So what's Marvel to do?
Create interesting content that people enjoy watching. I think that's what Marvel should do.
A lot of the problem comes from adapting source material from the 1970s with baked-in racism that refuses to go away.
Yeah, when you don't actually have a problem with anything, you just say it's racist, and there you go! Now we have something to complain about. It's just racist. Yeah. Why is it racist? Yeah, there's no reason why. Is it actually racist? Yeah, probably not, but who cares? I'm just gonna call it racist, because I can. That's what that sounds like to me.
Characters like Iron Fist and his early forebear Shang-Chi capitalized on the kung fu craze of the era. Back then, the characteristics of martial arts films were arguably empowering for marginalized audiences.
I wonder why.
Featuring a long-suffering, non-white protagonist on a righteous quest against a foe that was amoral, colonial, and sometimes white.
Oh, I see. So it's okay when non-white people beat up other white people. That's totally fine, that's okay. But when white people beat up other white people, that is an issue, and that should stop! Or there should be a lot less of it. Or these white people should not be learning from these different elements, from these different cultures, because that's not fair. Because it's not like other Japanese people and other Chinese people don't profit off of the usage of these cultures in their own works. Just saying.
But by 1972, efforts like Kung Fu helped co-opt the genre for white America. Even though characters like Iron Fist and Doctor Strange have come a long way, their origin stories are steeped in some pretty offensive ideas. The film version of Doctor Strange, for instance, tried to sidestep the problem by casting Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. But that gave fans the impression that Marvel was whitewashing the character.
And we learned a very valuable lesson that day. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. At least that's my takeaway from it.
For Iron Fist, which appears relatively faithful to the source material, it might just be laziness.
Yeah, I think you're right. They are a little bit lazy. I noticed that Colleen Wing does not have red hair. Ah, man, you gotta do something about that, Marvel. You know, you gotta make it accurate to the source material. Gotta make your actresses dye their hair. You know, commit to their roles. Are we asking for too much? Come on.
A vocal group of Marvel fans protested the casting choices of Iron Fist, explaining how an Asian American Danny Rand could benefit the story. It was smart criticism that showed how far we've come since the 70s. It's a genre problem nearly 50 years in the making, and we're sadly still struggling with it to this day.
What I noticed that no one really complained about Baron Mordo being a black guy. You know, Mordo, I don't know if Mordo was Tibetan, but he was certainly Asian in the comic books. No one has an issue with Mordo being a black guy. That bothers people none.
Food for thought during your next Netflix binge.
No, I'm not going to think too hard about it, because this kind of strikes me as a gigantic waste of time. I guess I'll wrap the video up with two things. Number one, this content that you think marginalized people are hungry for is available out there. But even if you can't find any content that tickles your fancy, you can always just make the approach of creating your own characters and creating the content that you do want to see. I remember back when I was younger, I noticed that there's a surprising lack of black people in fantasy sci-fi adventures that are the main characters. So what I decided to do was to write my own book starring a black guy who did a whole bunch of super cool shit. And I'm not done with the book series because I've had a lot of problems with my computers and data, and I've lost this story like well over fucking 7 to 8 times. Literally, like, chapters I've written have been deleted because something happened to my computer. However, I mean, I put my money where my mouth is. I wanted to see a particular character be portrayed, so I created that character. You can do that. If you really are hungry to see different characters that represent you or look like you can make them. Instead of complaining about someone else's hard-earned work and someone else's creative endeavor, you make your own, and then you won't need any reason to be upset. And sure, will it ever be as popular as the other stuff that you want to see? Who knows? We won't know until you try. But the fact remains that you have complete creative access to all of this shit. You don't have to wait for someone else to make something for you. I mean, even with this whole YouTube videos thing that I do, I make the videos that I want to see instead of waiting for someone else to do it. And you can do that too. And the second thing that really bothers me about this is that there's a gigantic, complete lack of understanding of actually listening and caring about characterization and the morals and lessons that come from the stories we read. Honestly, I don't really think too hard about the skin color or the race of the characters that I like reading about. It doesn't really bother me all too much. I actually like the character themselves. I like the struggles they go through, the things that they do and the things that they say. That is infinitely more important to me than all of the other bullshit that surrounds them. And that should be the most important element about these different stories that we read. Are they good stories? Are they interesting stories? Are they complex stories? Are they fun stories? That should be what we should be focusing on. Not, is the person white? Is the person Asian? Is the person black? Because I guarantee you one thing, even if you had a black kung fu guy doing a whole bunch of cool shit, if the story is garbage, and if he's a shitty character and a terrible person, I'm not going to like him and I'm not going to support that shit. It doesn't really matter if the race of the person. It's who the person is as a character and what lessons they learn and the actual story. That should be the most important thing. So, with that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. And shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.